Baxter, and now you know why I have Lisa. So I know lots of other things, but handling a Zoom call is not one of the things I know. So I always like to have her around. But today, this is our 11 o'clock class, and you had to advance to get here. You know, people who entered the first class for suspects, excuse me, I have allergies today. Were not invited to this class if they did not qualify their prospects and move them into the prospect column. So today, if you're here, it's because I believe that you truly want to, you're able to and want to and are willing to move forward into the go-to first interview. So, excuse me, I've been dealing with this for about 12 hours. It just turned spring here in Tennessee, and that means that I'm a sneezer for a couple of weeks. But anyway, where are we? Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the go-to first interview, and this is the money maker. The collecting, moving the suspect to the prospect is the hardest part of the job. Once they agree, all you need to do is practice the go-to first interview as many times as you can with your clients, and you're going to mess some of them up. Don't worry about it. The more you do, the better you get at it. So anyway, let's tally ho. This is what we're going to be covering today. One of the statements I always say to somebody when I'm going into the first interview, very first sentence I say to them is, I'm a better advisor if I understand your family tree. First of all, it establishes my credentials as being an advisor, and it also establishes the fact that they're about to see something called the family tree. So again, we're just building. So what I want to do right now is I want to talk about your current plan. But before I do that, I want to do the family tree presentation. Now, in this software, I'm just going to skip the family tree presentation for a minute because you've seen it, you know what it is, and we're going to cover that in the agenda. But it helps to explain the estate. I always tell them it helps for me to explain the estate planning process in reverse. So that's what we're going to do. Let's start with the Advanced Care Directive. Now I've already drawn the family tree, and you know how to draw the circles and how to attach it to everything. And if you want a family tree discussion or a class on family tree, just let me know. I'll do it one-on-one with you. But it's also in the Approach Plan Succeed booklet on your ebook, and it's also in the ebook Family Tree Asset Positioning, the go-to first interview. So those are all in there. There's 21 different family trees. But anyway, let's start with Advanced Care Directive for a minute. Who in your family tree would you pick to represent you if you were unable to speak for yourself? So if we drew that family tree, and I did one the other day that had, I do a lot of people that move from California or Illinois or Indiana, New York into Tennessee. And I find out that sometimes the grandparents like to pick that person according to who's the oldest. Some people like to pick that person according to who's most qualified. Some people like to pick the first. And if they're all three, that's great. But you identify them in the family tree. And I always tell people in the family tree, when I draw the family tree, I put the drawing out in front in the center of the table, and I'll say, we're going to be discussing this, and it's okay to reach over and put your finger on the circle that identifies that person. So all of a sudden, I've got these people participating in my drawings by reaching across the table and pointing at them and telling me about them and telling me about their children and problems they have and stuff like that. But then you go in, and for the Advanced Care Directive, you got to pretend like, hey, tonight at 6 p.m., you're in a coma in a hospital and the doctor doesn't think you're going to survive. Who in your family tree would you pick to represent you if you were unable to speak for yourself? There we're talking about the Advanced Care Directive. The next question is, who in your family tree would you want to represent you with your finances? And sometimes they'll go, well, I want my son the attorney, or I want my daughter the accountant, or I want my son the businessman. I don't want my son who makes financial mistakes and is on his fourth wife and is bankrupt. But they'll tell you that. I promise you, they'll tell you that. So, so the next question is would these people be the same people that would help you handle your will? Okay, so for some reason I can't get that button to move forward. Let's see here. I'll go down here and try another button. Um, there you go. So the next question, if you talked about people about their advanced care directive and their healthcare power of attorney and their power of attorney for finances, would these people be the same for your will? And it's okay to go ahead and ask that question. Would you like to keep all this out of probate court? Okay, so what we're going to do real quick is before we talk about probate court, and this is important, and this is when people are going to bend forward and start listening. Your clients will do that. First, you must understand what a trustor is. And if you're in Tennessee, we don't even call you a trustor. We call you a settlor. Maybe up in some of the northern states or western states, they call you a trustor or a grantor. They all mean the same thing. The owner, if you're the settlor or the grantor or the trustor, you are the owner of the trust. And you're the only one who can change the trust. But then there's another role, there's the trustees, and most trustors pick themselves as trustees. The trustor is the owner, the trustee is the manager. And in the beginning, will be both trustor and trustee. But you know, this is where I always tell them, and this is where I'm setting them up for the back end sale. But I'll go, there are 4 things that would keep you from being trustee in the future. And they're all going to look at you and they're all going to want to know. I call it creating the Mr. Big Ears. They're going to want to know what those 4 things are. And you have to be good at telling them what they are. And you have to repeat it. But those 4 things are death, 2 doctors, a judge, or a resignation. And those documents, a death certificate, or those letters from those 2 doctors, or those letters from the judge, or the letter of resignation, they become part of the trust. You hook them up to the back of the trust. Because if you show up at the bank when your spouse has passed away with a certificate of trust that says you and the spouse are trustors and trustees, they're going to want to know where your spouse is and why they're not here. And then you show them the death certificate. Or you show them the letter from their doctor, and it has to be 2 letters, one from their doctor and one from another doctor who agrees. Or you might show them a judge's ruling that they can't be trustee anymore. And that happens. It's usually not a pleasant thing, but the judge can rule that you can't be trustee anymore. And the other thing is resignation. I do a lot of resignations. It's usually very old trustees, maybe in their 90s, who are just tired of all the work that they have to do to manage their estate, and they just don't want to manage it anymore. And they want to turn it over, so they can just resign. So we've got those 4 things that you can do. These are 4 things that are going to happen, okay, sometime in life. And it sets you up for the stage in the confidential, and we'll be talking about that in a minute. But, you know, I always tell people, and I always show them, you put your hands together like you're going to clap sideways instead of vertical, and open it up like a clamshell, and you can say, most trusts that I open up are not properly funded. They're empty. So a trust is no good if you buy the trust and don't properly fund it. And again, I'm not trying to sell them anything. I'm just trying to get them to see that there's going to be, this is an ongoing conversation, and that there's probably going to be a second interview. So before we go any further, after we've talked about the trust, let's talk about your real estate holdings. Remember, they haven't bought a trust yet, so you don't need to get in too deep. But let's talk about your real estate holdings. And a lot of people that I work with, they just moved to Tennessee and they still own property in another state, or they just sold all their property and moved the new property into the state of Tennessee, and it's all in their name. If they're going to buy an estate plan, they're going to have to do a quitclaim deed to get that deed put from their name over into the trust. We can do that with you or for you. We keep an attorney in our company that'll do it. I like to just turn it over and not get too involved in it. You can make $100 to $125, maybe $150, depending on the process. Okay, we charge $350, but we got to pay the attorneys and all those kind of stuff. We got to register the deed for them. Okay, but we don't talk about that right now. We're just going to talk. We just want to know what they're holding in real estate. Some people don't hold any real estate at all. They're living in an apartment. And then I'm going to go up to page 2 of the confidential, which you're going to get. Lisa, maybe in the chat room, you can give them the link to the confidential in the what I call advanced training spoon-fed classes. Okay, but I just want to ask them a question on page 2. Do you have long-term care plans in place? Because the majority of people are going to say no, and some are going to say yes, and then you can ask them a little bit about it, and they say, I don't know, it's $80 a day, which you know is not going to be enough. They might say it's $200 a day, which might be enough, but usually right now about 225, 250 is enough. And so most people bought their long-term care when they were in their 40s and 50s. Now they're in their 60s and 70s, and it's not enough. And you don't want to try to sell them anything. You just want to know what they have. And then you want to say, okay, we'll come back to that. That's part of the process. You know, they have to feel safe that you're not going to try to sell them anything. If you pivot into a sale real quick, you're just a product, and it serves you right if you lose a sale. Don't do it. Next thing you want to talk about, though, is a properly designed estate plan will have an income plan. Now, we've already known that the client is in a position where they're the perfect avatar. Most of the time, that means they have assets and they have income. And if they're married, and most are, they need to have an income plan. So they need to understand what happens to their income when the first spouse dies. So to do that, you have to explain that there's 2 types of income. And folks, you got to focus on this and make sure they understand it. That they have income tied to assets, and that they have income not tied to assets. Take your time and be sure they understand that. The income not tied to assets, that would be Social Security and pensions and things like that. And income tied to assets would be their bank accounts or 401ks or IRAs or life insurance. But we also have to, in the sales presentation, and I'm going to show you how to do this with the agenda. And every one of you have got, at least is that right? Every one of them have got a link to the agenda in this presentation. You don't have to open it right now, but open it later. And if you're serious, I'll talk to you about how the agenda works. But you have to identify gaps and cliffs. And you do this in a way that they're already open to, they're already making micro commitments. They've already told you about their family. They've already told you about their real estate. They've already told you about their long-term care plans. And now you're telling them something about their income. They're gonna listen because they're into it, because they've never been presented things this way before. You're not trying to sell them anything, trying to teach them something. So we don't want to talk about gaps and cliffs. Let's talk about that. A gap is if you have, if mom and dad have $2,000 each in Social Security and $5,000 in expenses, they have a $1,000 gap. It's just that easy. So you add up all their income not tied to assets. It's the income not tied to assets that people spend first. They want to draw from assets as the last resort. So you got to know that the front, I call them soldiers, the frontline money soldiers are the Social Security income and the pensions. Those are not tied to assets. And if that's more than enough to pay their monthly bills, they do not have a gap. If it is not enough and they're getting ready to retire and they see that their Social Security is not going to let them stay in their lifestyle, then they have a gap first thing going right out of the starting gate when gap. And the only way to fund that gap is to use income tied to assets or get a job or cut expenses. Those are the only three choices they have. So well, let's go back. One other thing that you might want to, what I like to do in there is I like to talk about how is that income being funded? And it's going to be funded with what I call sure things and maybes. And a maybe is they might have, oh, I've got $1 million in my 401k. We're fine if it goes up or down. I would tell them that that's a maybe, and that a sure thing would be to have an asset that paid their income for the rest of their life, and it never went away, even if the cash value of their product hit zero. And they're going to absorb that, but don't try to sell them anything. Just let them absorb it. So you want to talk about their gaps and their cliffs, but you understand a gap, and now you got to understand the two kinds of cliffs. The first kind of cliff is when one spouse dies, and usually when one spouse dies, the lower Social Security goes away. In my example, that would be $2,000 would disappear immediately within 30 days. Let them absorb that. They may already know that. They may not be afraid of it. It may scare some of them to death. Oh no, I didn't know that. Because we always tell people you might learn something which you weren't aware. So you want to spend time on the gaps and the cliffs. But there's a second kind of cliff, folks. It's the worst kind of cliff of all. That's the cliff when one spouse gets sick and does not die, and expenses go up and income stays the same. They now have an official drain on their assets. The one who's at most risk is the healthy one, because it's the healthy one that's going to be left with the decrease in assets when the first one actually does die. So let me tell you a secret. It's a secret I learned a long time ago, and it works, and it's good, and it helps them understand, because now, after I've explained their gaps and their cliffs, I want to discuss their current health situation. And I want it to follow right then. If you're not going to ask the health questions, then you're blowing it. You're not taking the time to establish the right mindset for these folks to make the best decisions. You're going to get a no, or you're going to get, I need to talk to my broker, or you're going to get I don't know if I want to do that. But if you get mom and dad there and they talk about their health situation, guess what you're going to find out? Did you guess? You're going to find out that if dad's had a heart attack and a stroke and diabetes and a cancer, and mom is not taking any medications and works out every day and is real healthy, you already know who's closer to the cliff. And then all you got to do is look at their assets and decide if their assets are planned in order to take care of that cliff. Some say yes, some say no. Most will not have it planned correctly. That's why I say let's briefly just discuss assets that go into the trust. And that's why I say I just need ballpark. Some people say I don't like giving all my information to people. That's why I just say ballpark, because right now you're just trying to fill them out. Give me some ballparks, right? I'm a better advisor if I understand these ballparks. I'm a better advisor if I understand your health situation. I'm a better advisor if I understand your long-term care situation. I'm a better advisor if I understand your income situation. I'm a better advisor if I understand your current estate plan. I'm a better advisor if I understand your family tree. You don't have to say that over and over and over, but they will come to that conclusion if you'll give them time. So one thing about the sales presentation, you're going to get the agenda. If you review their assets with them, you're going to know what they got that's a sure thing and what they got that's a maybe. So if you go to the confidential page 3, you're going to say, I need to get an idea of the ballpark of how much money you keep in the bank. And that also tells me which bank that they need to change their beneficiaries on when we sell them the trust. And then I need to ask them if they have any money market accounts. because that's mostly the most easily moved unless it's an emergency fund. But at the same time, it also tells me that they might have to contact the money market fund manager and change the beneficiary agreements on what I'm about to sell them. And then I go on down and I'll ask them, do you have any annuities? And some will say yes, and some will say no, and some will say, oh no, I hate annuities. If they say they hate annuities, just say, well, I do too, unless they work. But most of the time, if they have annuities, they're usually accumulating annuities. They haven't talked to their agent since the agent delivered it or sold it because he's already got what he wanted. He's gone. And all of a sudden, you can look at that and you can say, you know what, these annuities are accumulating annuities, but they're not solving your income gap or your income cliff. You've got an opportunity, not right now, but when you ask them about their annuities, they're going to tell you. And you ask what companies they're with, you'll know what they're pretty much what it is. So far, I already know that if I have to reposition assets, I can look at their money markets. I can look at their current annuities. Then I'm going to ask them a question about their life insurance, and they're going to tell me. Most people try to tell you, and most time it's term insurance. Some will have a permanent life insurance policy. I always use that as an opportunity to say, well, I don't know, do we have a temporary problem or a permanent problem? Sometimes it's a temporary problem. Maybe it's a debt, to secure a debt or a tax. Okay. But if you look at my business card, every one of my business cards, and you can put it on your business card too, it's finding your true purpose for money. And if they know that you're going to be a better advisor because you're going to help them find their true purpose for money, that your credentials and your image is going to go way up. So you talk to them about their life insurance, and then you talk to them about their IRAs and their 401ks and whether they own any stocks or bonds and why they own that and stuff like that. So, I'll be honest with you, the folks with $2 million or more are a whole lot easier to sell income products with than the people who with $200,000 or $300,000. They're more protective of that $200,000 or $300,000, and they understand that stock market at 2 million, that if they only have to move 300,000 or 400,000 to solve a problem, and they know that the true purpose for that money is to solve that problem, they'll move the money out of the market. They'll move it from a maybe to a sure thing, and then they know that whatever the market does after that is okay, because if the market goes up or down, they don't have to worry about it because they've got all their problems solved with sure things. If you want to learn the sure thing maybe presentation, make an appointment with me. I'll help you with it. That's what I learned from folks at Simplicity. We have that video on the randallbaxter.com website. And if you can't find it, just send me a note or send one of us a note, and we'll get the answer to you on where to find it. So anyway, we go over here and one thing, once I total up all their assets on page 3 of the confidential, and I see that it's either 200,000 or 4 million, doesn't matter. I can look at them and I can say, you've done a pretty good job with your assets. Can you see where having the proper paperwork is important? And they'll say yes. They're ready to buy. They're ready to buy. Okay. So all you have to do there is collect the money, set an appointment to review it all. I like to set 1 week ahead. I can do it right then. People can come in at 10 o'clock and I can close them and have this thing ready at 12. I don't want to. I want them to have a little pillow talk. But I also want to get ready, because I always tell them, can you come in, if you can see me at 11 o'clock on Monday morning, can you see me next Monday at 11 o'clock? And the answer in most of the cases is going to be yeah. You say, well, if you come in at 11 o'clock next week, I'll have the notary ready and the witnesses ready. And we'll be able to put this all in force. Will that be okay? And they'll go, yeah. They're going to be excited about it, because some companies, some trust companies Sell the trust in March and deliver in September. What I want you to learn to do is sell the trust on Monday and deliver it the next Monday. We've got the software to do that. Plus, it's fresh on their mind. When I deliver one that's 6 months old, I got to go in and review it and make sure that there hadn't been any asset changes or relationship changes or health changes, and they're already a little ticked off because it's been 6 months. Don't do it. Don't allow it to happen. But when you come back in, pick up your trust just by talking to you. I have some ideas I want to share with you, but I need to do some research and I need to run some numbers. When you come back in to pick up your trust, do you want to see your numbers? Last week, I don't know how many trusts I delivered last week, maybe 6, maybe 7. 4 said yes. 4 said yes, they want to see their numbers. 2 or 3 said, I'm happy with my broker. I've had my broker all my life, and they don't even not even going to be open to it. And a lot of times when they say that, I'll say, well, if I do come back, if you do come back in to pick it up, don't you think we ought to look at your sure things and maybes and make sure it covers those things? They'll still say, yeah, they'll look at it. So, your whole mission after you get them to buy the estate plan is to be sure it's properly funded. That's why a few minutes ago I said, look at them and put your hands together like it's a clamshell and open it up and tell them this trust is not properly funded. This trust is empty. Sometimes they're aware and sometimes they aren't. But if you send them home with a little pillow talk, that healthy spouse is going to say, maybe we ought to look and see what Randy's got to say about our income and the risk we have for our income losses when the first one of us dies. And, honey, I love you a whole lot, but you're sicker than I am. And it looks like it's going to be you first. And this is, Randy's trying to show us what's going to happen when that happens. We need to listen. Does that make sense? So, if you understand what you want to accomplish in the go-to first interview, you want to make the estate plan sale. You want to bond, getting to know their family members. You want to learn what they've got in real estate. You learn what their long-term care plans, learn their income situation, learn their health situation, and learn their current asset situation in a way that they give you the information voluntarily. And even if it's not accurate, it's ballpark. And then if I see that it's really easy to figure out if you have a $1,000 income gap, and we have income annuities that pay out at 6%. This is on average, or pay out at, let's say, 5%. Then we'll be conservative, say 5%. If you have $1,000 gap, that's $12,000 a year at 5%. So you multiply that by 2, and you can figure out that you're going to make a $250,000 sale if they have a $1,000 gap, because $250,000. 5% of $250,000 is about $12,000. And if they are sitting on 3 or 4 million and they see that they can close that gap and never lose money on it and let it grow at 6% and have it pay out at 5, and it might even double if they need assisted living, if they can't do 2 activities of daily living. And when they compare that conversation to what they told you in their long-term care plans, and you show them that their long-term care plan is missing maybe $2,000 or maybe $5,000 for assisted living, that same product, if we took it up to $400,000 and got a $20,000 income on it, and that doubled to $40,000, and they added their Social Security to it, it might be enough to pay for their assisted living care without proving insurability on the medical end. And that mom's going to say, Dad, I need you to have this for me so that we can protect the rest of the assets, because you're the one that's closer to the cliff. If you can get that message over to people, they're going to buy from you. They're going to buy from you. So, so, you know, you've got the link. Lisa, did you get to put the link in there for the agenda?
No, Randall, I have emailed it to you. It's a PDF. There isn't a
Okay,
link
so,
for it. I could quickly create a link for it.
well, why don't you just send it to all the people who attended?
Okay.
All right. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to, you know, the agenda that I'm sending you is the exact step-by-step process for the sales presentation. Verbatim. If you follow that agenda, it will lead you to the sale. If you're not following that agenda, you're going on half-cocked, and you're probably losing sales you wouldn't lose. I'm telling you, the agenda works. Why do I say it works? Because I have a track record of knowing it works. I've written over, just myself, over 200 estate plans in the past 18 months. And I funded most of them. And so, but you know, some people tell me no. You know, hello, not my fault. I
Randall,
did the best job I could. Yes.
I've just created a link for the agenda and put it in the chat. I'll also email it to everyone after the call.
Okay. All right. So, you know, you need to study that agenda. If you're not ready to go out and make that sale yet, or if you're having problems on the sale, it's because you're not following that agenda. Don't move forward until you accomplish the goals of that step on that agenda. Do it as quickly as you can. The interview shouldn't take more than 45 minutes. I've had people call me and say, oh, it took me 3 hours. Well, it shouldn't. Follow the agenda. Get it done. Remember, you're leading to the question, hey, you've done good on your assets on page 3. Don't you think having the proper paperwork is important? That's when you get right there, stop. Write the case. They'll pull out their credit card. They'll set an appointment for 1 week from today. They'll know that you're going to show them some things that you think that they need to look at because you've already told them over and over and over that you're a better advisor if you have the right information. Now that you've got the right information, why would they not think that you were a good or better advisor? Okay, so you know, people are very predictable. And if you take control of the situation and lead them to a decision that they know they need to make, they'll make it. Why? Because you quoted them a price that they thought it's a lot less than what they thought it was going to be. You have talked to them about something that they knew they needed to talk about but didn't know who to talk to. You've helped them come to the conclusion, help them pick the people that they need to pick. You've done it in a way that's superior to all other agents out there. You've done it in a way that's intellectually absorbable. And when you say, can you see where having the proper paperwork is important, is a no-brainer. Yes, we do need to have this. Why do we not have it? Well, we can have it right now. And you know, now that we're getting this set up for you, can you come in at Monday at 11 o'clock next week to pick it up, and we'll have it notarized and witnessed and review it, be sure it's right. They'll go, yeah. And then you say, well, now that you're going to come in, you know, no, I've got some ideas for you that I think I want to share with you, but I don't like to share ideas unless I do the proper research and get ready to talk to you. But I'm going to run some numbers when you come back in. Would you like to see your numbers? Who would say no to that? Who would say no? So, you know, this stage is just an introduction to the go-to first interview. If you want to do it right, you'll practice it a while. You'll read the script. If you get the agenda and want to read the script, send us an email and we'll see to it that you have the script, but you already have it. It's in your advanced training, spoon-fed 30-day training. And it's also in your fast track training. And it's also on the website, randallbaxter.com. But nobody's going to learn it more than the person who gets out there and tries it using the agenda. The agenda follows the sales presentation verbatim. When you're ready, I'll teach you the power phrases. I've already shown you some of them, but there's also a class on power phrases at randallbaxter.com. If you want to learn the power phrases, go there and find it and watch that video. So anyway, let's take some questions. There's 6 or 7 or 8 of you out there. Is there anybody out there with any questions?
Nothing in the chat yet.
Raina, did you learn anything today? How about you, Mike Adams?
I always learn something every time I listen to it.
Well, not only do you learn something when you listen, you learn something every time you do it.
And
Carter
every
and I
time
both did too as well. I've been
I'm sorry?
listening and
Is this Raina?
it was when.
Oh, hi, Win. Okay, good, good. You know, sales is a process. It's not a product. And you have to find somebody that you think needs or wants that product, and you have to lead them through the decision process. If they give you resistance, it's probably something you're doing wrong, because if they really want it and really need it, they're going to listen to what you have to say. So you have to say it in the right order. But you have to do it. You got your 10 suspects. You converted some of those 10 suspects already to prospects. By the next time we talk, sometime next week, when you'll be ready for the 4th class, you will have eliminated some of those people, and you need to replace those ones you eliminate with new suspects. Now you can do it through, Lisa can send you 1,000 names. What is it, 1,000 names a month, Lisa? Is that right?
It's 500, Randall.
Okay, 500 names a month for $100 a month in your
we'll take
geographic area.
1,000 though.
Well, I know you would. I want you to, the mission is 10 each time. And now that 500, the reason I don't say 1,000 is if you give you too many, you won't try to select 10 out of it. Select 10 out of those 500. Find those 10 people. Use an email, use a text message, use a phone call approach. Say the same thing to them. Yeah, I don't think you need 500. I'll be honest with you. I think you need 25. The only, but you, in some way, you got to convert them to where they know you, like you, trust you. And once you get that done, they're going to make an appointment with you. They're going to bring their $1 million portfolios in. They're going to bring their $500,000 portfolios in. They're going to bring their $3 million portfolios in. They're going to bring you a $3 million portfolio thinking that everybody has one, because that's who they hang out with. When I go into Telco Village, I know that the average family in there is going to have somewhere between $1 million and $4 million cash or investments. And the reason I know that is because that's who they hang out with. They move into neighborhoods of people that have that. So if you're prospecting in the trailer parks to sell a final expense policy, that's all you're going to get. If you're prospecting in unemployed people, that's what you're going to get. But if I was going to identify my avatars to approach and make prospects and make the go-to first interview, I'm going to talk to widows. I'm going to talk to people just retiring. I'm going to talk to people with second marriages. I'm going to be talking with people with first marriages, with children. I'm going to be talking to just such a wide variety of people that love each other, that need to have the proper paperwork. Can you see where having the proper paperwork is important? If you can see that yourself, and if you go through the process that leads people to being able to see that for themselves, you're going to start writing a lot of estate plans. And like I said, when I go into conversations with people who are struggling with the amount of estate plans, it's usually somewhere in the implementation of the suspect to prospect endeavor. If I can just teach you what you've already qualified, you've already said you can do, you've already proven it, and now you have the sales presentation to make to those people, go out and make some money. Go out and help those families. Not only do you help families, you get to make a pretty good chunk of money. You can make $1,200 for each estate plan you sell, and you'll average between 5,000 and 20,000 for each back-end sale you make. Now, if you're talking to people that need an estate plan and just need to buy a life insurance policy, I'm going to ask you to upgrade your prospecting a little bit. But start by getting the names of people that the people you've already sold, to get them to advocate for you. They will advocate upward. So if you're having a trouble making the transition from lower middle class to middle class, just follow this process and put those suspect names in there, and you'll see yourself graduate away from lower middle class to middle class and upper middle class. And it'll take a couple of weeks. It might take a couple of months. Because remember, everybody starts where they are. It's a mindset. It's also a process. Any questions? I've been working all
Not
morning.
yet in the chat.
Okay. I've been working all morning with a sinus headache. I don't like it. But I wanted to go ahead and work, and then I'm going to go to the drugstore. A sinus headache, and I hope it just makes me go to sleep. I'm ready. I didn't get much sleep last night because I had a sinus headache all night. Hope you don't have them. But while you got me here, I'll answer questions one more time. What are you thinking there, Eddie Taylor? Okay. Alicia?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Eddie. Listen, follow this process. I'm going to invite you to the next the 12 o'clock class, and I'm going to go a little more in depth into the sales process and the delivery process and how to set up for the back end sale. But it won't do you any good to attend that class if you don't take what you've learned today and implement it this week. Go do one, go do two. You know, you've already got your list of prospects. If you're honest with me and you've converted those suspects into prospects, those people are ready to talk to you. Go in and do the go-to first interview. You're not going to get them all. I don't get them all. I get a lot of them because I followed my process. I follow the system I use. I'm going to go here if you don't have any more questions. All right. I've got a trip to the drugstore to fix this headache. I'll talk to you all later. See
Thanks
you
so
later.
much. Bye.
Okay. All right. Bye.